Hey, Sean here from SpeedCubeReview.com. It's that time of year again when I do an overview, a mega comparison of all the major cubes that are out there. So these are just going to be the 3x3 cubes. I'm not going to talk about 4x4, 5x5, 2x2, any of those for a little bit. I'm going to actually wait, probably getting a little into the new year, just to get that out. I might do one overview with all of them, but traditionally this has been done on the first of the year, so I want to make sure this is out. And I'm going to go through all the major cubes that are out. Of course, there are ones that are about to come out, which I'll talk about those. And to make this a little more accessible, we're going to talk about a lot of the major ones that are out there that are actually still being produced. So, you know, a lot of the old ones that you can't even really get anymore, we're not even going to refer to. Now, these are not in any particular order, but I do kind of have them stacked up. First, actually, let me just talk about Shengshou, which are now spelling their name like that on all the packaging. And they have a few puzzles out that are, you know, they're decent. They have things like the Gem and the Mr. M, which perform fairly well. The Gem is the non-magnetic version, while the Mr. M is magnetic, although it's very clicky magnets and has this sort of brushed surface. And I'm actually going to call this a frosted plastic surface, which is great for fewest moves because stickers stick to them and then come off very easily. Some of their more top of the line ones, I'm not a huge fan of, and I feel like, you know, they can work, although I'm not really even going to recommend any of them if you're looking for a top of the line puzzle. And if you're looking for something that is budget, that would be something that there are even ones that are more budget than Shengshou, which used to not be how it is. But if you want something that has a frosted feel, that's a little bit different, that has a more basic design, the Gem is a good one to get. I actually don't recommend the Mr. M just because of how clicky the magnets are. And you could take it all apart and glue those in, but I'm gonna stick to mainly the Gem being the one that I would recommend, but only for specific purposes. Now, before we go on, I'll also say that pretty much any of these puzzles, you can get sub 10 averages, and you could even just get a world record with any of these puzzles. None of them will really give you, you know, twice as fast of times as anything else. So already I'm gonna say there is no best. So feel free to ask that in the comments. I won't be answering that. But okay, so let's go now to Yushin. Yushin has their higher end one, which is the Ulong. Don't have to pronounce that correctly. There's a magnetic one and a non-magnetic one. And it's very similar to what the Little Magic was, maybe a little more flexible. It's not a bad puzzle at all. It's quite stable, and the middle pieces, the center ones, are primary, while the other ones are either black or whatever the color if you have a stickless puzzle. Not a bad puzzle at all. I feel like it's very similar to something like the Volk Power, and kind of a good all-around puzzle that doesn't have too many extremes one way or the other, but I think the stability of it is really nice. The one that stands out for me for Yushin is the QiYi version 2, which I just made a video on with comparing 3 of the probably, or let's say the top magnetic puzzles out that are under $10 or right at $10. And this one comes magnetic, very smooth, and very good right out of the box. And it has that stickered look without having stickers. Actually, a friend of mine who I taught how to cube, I got him one of these because he actually didn't like the look of stickerless puzzles and he liked the look of stickered ones, but, you know, he was worried about stickers peeling. And this was the perfect one. So those are those two. So we're going to go on now to YJ, and YJ has, oh, let me move that over there. YJ has the MGC line. They also have their Ulong, which I talked about in my budget cube comparison, but I'm mainly going to talk about the MGC ones in here. Also, I'm going to link the budget cube comparison in the description below. So they started with their first MGC, which was only stickered, and had a very different feel than other modern puzzles. They really reminded me of old school puzzles. Had these more rounded pieces, although it didn't really corner twist easily because the base of the corners were much more sharp. But it had a really interesting feeling, really hollow. And then they came out with their version 2, which was more like a standard speed cube. And it wasn't bad, but people didn't like it as much. It seemed to catch for some people. I never really had this issue, but now they have the version 3, and it mixes the two of these. It has that rounded feeling, not hollow pieces, but definitely, I'm going to call it a solid feeling because the pieces are not a 3-piece design, but caps over a really solid base. but it's kind of fast like the version 2 was. The version 3 comes magnetic, but also has an adjustment so you can change the magnetic field by the arrows pointing out or pointing in. And then also the center, there are different tensions you can set this on to get different tensions like you would for a Gann puzzle or the new MoYu puzzles. Almost all of the major brands now are having some sort of design so you can do this. So the version 3 here, it's about 56 millimeters and it feels very solid in the hands. I feel like this is a good puzzle if you want something that feels more like an old school puzzle, isn't super fast, isn't super flexible, but you still can get that fast and flexible feeling if you wanted to, depending on how you set up the puzzle. It comes in stickered and stickerless. QiYi, they had their original Volk and then the Volk Power and now the Volk Elite. They came out with the Volk, but a magnetic version, and it really does seem like their regular Volk, just with magnets added in. And some people really do enjoy this puzzle. The Power was a good upgrade. However, something about it people didn't quite like as much as the Volk. I think that it felt a bit too swooshy. Some people said, again, similar with the second MGC, that there's catching. Again, I never really had those catching issues. But the Elite seems to have pleased a lot of people. It has the blocky feeling of the original Volk, but the speed of the Volk Power. There are the primary internals. We have these center caps, which if you change the different caps, it comes with different ones. You can change the magnetic strength. The springs are the same in there, but there's different spring capsules, I believe. Yes, there are different spring capsules, so you can change the tension as well. You just take out the screw, put in the different capsule. So you have 3 different spring elasticities and 3 different magnetic strengths. I just have mine on the neutral one. As someone who likes high tension and high magnetic strength puzzles, I actually just kept this on the middle one because it felt really nice. So it's a good middle of the road if you like that Volk almost blocky feeling and want something that feels like that, but maybe an upgrade to it. They do have their Thunderclap version 3 as well, which I had in my budget mega comparison, and one that I really highly recommend as something that is a budget puzzle, but gives you a modern cube feeling. So you don't need to spend $20, $30, $40 on a puzzle if you want a really good magnetic puzzle. However, there's nothing really adjustable in this. So let's move on to Gann. Gann has a lot of things out. They have their 354 out, which is a nice puzzle. I like smaller puzzles. The one issue I had with this is it has sort of a sharper edge feel to it. I think when they made everything smaller, I don't know if they actually adjusted the shape of it or it's just because it's smaller, but everything feels very sharp on it, which just doesn't feel quite right in my hands. I do like using it, and I do get similar times than I would on any other puzzle. They do have their Air. The Air Pro, this is actually the SM. Yeah, I believe this was the SM. And the Air Pro is really just the Air with the new tensioning system, which I am not a fan of. I like the older tensioning system. So when I actually got a Infinity X, I wanted it without the numerical IPG. These caps are much tighter on here now. The numerical IPG is one where you just can use your finger and set the tension and you're done. But there's not many tension options, and I felt like even the tightest tensions was way too loose, and I was still getting corner twists when I normally wouldn't. So if you do get anything like the Air or the SM or the X, I don't know if the SM has that adjustment one that's numerical, but I would highly suggest the IPG version 5. This is the X here, but it's the Infinity version, which meant that I contacted Gann through the website and kind of set up the cube how I wanted, and we have these different high contrasting colors, which looked a little bit weird in the first photo I ever posted on it, but especially in lower light, these things work great. And then there is the XS, which has more of a matte finish. This kind of became a little more glossy with use. It's very light. Both the X and the SM, you can adjust the magnet strength. The X and the XS. Oh, that's getting confusing. With the XS, you just move this little notch and you can move the magnet in or out. And the tension system is a little bit different. You can move this blue part by hand, but you need a tool for the clear part to adjust the elasticity and the actual tension itself, like how far the screw would be on a normal cube. And the X to adjust the magnets, you can push something through there, and you have different strengths that are different rods you adjust in the edges. Much easier to change magnetic strength in this one, but I would say the tensioning's a little bit easier in the X and the SM, even if you're just getting the version 5 and not the numerical IPG. Oh, that was a lot to talk about there. We're gonna keep moving on to MoYu. So MoYu has quite a few things out. They have a couple budget ones, which I didn't talk about in the budget comparison. I didn't talk about the MF3 RS3M, and one reason is because I believe it's around $15. It's a very stable and solid feeling cube. I honestly like the MF3 RS2 a bit more because of flexibility, but some people really like the stability of the RS3. If you get an RS3 and magnetize it yourself, just know that the springs in the stock RS3M are actually lighter. So you might want to compress the springs of your RS3 if you do magnetize it. But it's a very stable and smooth cube, probably the most stable of every single one out here. There's also their Ulong. Now this is a very light puzzle, and I've added magnets. It's a really, really good solid feeling puzzle. It's also quite stable. It's similar to the Warrior W, and the Warrior W was by QiYi. I didn't put that here. The only reason I have this here is a lot of people really like to use this, and I actually almost use this as my main for nationals, but after trying a bunch of other things, I realized that I just felt a little bit more consistent with some other puzzles. But this one is a really good budget one that if you don't want anything that has magnets and just a really good budget puzzle and you don't mind the matte finish, the Ulong's a good one to get. But their mainline ones, we've got the GTS2, the GTS3, and the GTS WRm. The GTS2 they came out with, again, with the new colors because they had the old colors before. So the new colors make it really nice. The GTS3 is a version with light magnets and strong magnets. I prefer the strong magnets. And these ones don't have adjustable magnets, but it does have a really good adjustable center. So that blue part right there, you can adjust the elasticity. I feel like this is the nicest one out of all the companies, although the new MGC it's kind of nice because you can adjust it by hand without a tool. The WRm is basically a GTS3 with light magnets, just without the ridges. I have added extra magnets to some of them because I like that stronger feeling. And if you do magnetize your own, the one that I did that I liked the most was one, I got it that didn't have any magnets in it. And about 4x2 and 42 is a really nice fit to have that in between of the super strong magnets or the light magnets. And lastly, we have DaYan. Now this is the one that I know there's a cube coming out. It's already available in some stores. Actually, it's literally in the mail right now and I don't know when I'm going to get it. Hey, so I went to a competition this past weekend. It was No Shoes Kentucky, and thank you Ghost Cuber for having the Guhung version 3 while mine was still in the mail and letting me use it. So I have a few solves I'll just put in the background. We'll talk about it real quick, and I'll have a much larger review later on where I'll take it apart and let you know much more thoughts on it. But basic overview, so it's 54 millimeters, which makes it a really good budget, smaller mini cube that I think a lot of people are going to use for one-handed. 50 millimeters and sometimes a bit small for some people, but they want something smaller than a regular one, and this is quite good for that and a much better price than the Gann 354. Other than that, my general feeling is that it feels like a puzzle from 3 or 4 years ago that now has magnets in it. So if you're wanting something that's a magnetic budget puzzle, the other ones from QiYi or Yushin, I would probably reach for first before this one, unless you really want something that is a mini puzzle. Now, I do like using smaller puzzles, and it's something that I might go to just for that feeling of a smaller puzzle, but as far as performance, it's not something that really blows anything else out of the water, and is definitely not going to be the flagship of DaYan. The Tangyun still holds that. So stay subscribed for a much larger review soon in the new year. The newest DaYan that's out, that is out everywhere, is the Tangyun. They had their Zanchi, the different versions of them. I think it was 2017, maybe 2018, which is a really good cube in itself, but really needs magnets. The Tangyun has become a fan favorite for a lot of people. It's super quiet. If I want a cube in public and I don't want to make a lot of noise, I will grab this one. Now, the issue with this is the magnets are not adjustable, and in my opinion, a bit too light. I added an extra washer to this spring, which made the tension a bit higher, which did make it feel a bit more stable, but also a bit more sluggish. These can be very flexible feeling because of these light magnets, and you can't just add another magnet on top because of the way the capsules are. I really hope they come out with just a new version of this with stronger magnets, because it would be fantastic. But really, actually, the last competition I was at, I believe I saw more people with the DaYan Tangyun than any other puzzle. It's just a really nice puzzle. It's pretty cheap compared to some of the other top of the line ones. Like I believe it's around $25. It's a good quiet puzzle, especially if you want something quiet. This would be much quieter than any other puzzle out there. But also, I would recommend getting some lubrication because that also dampens the sound. Whew. Okay, so we've gone through all of the major puzzles. So what do I recommend? What should you get? Okay, so I'm going to kind of go through what is the main line of each cube and just say 1 or 2 words of what I would recommend it specifically for. So let's go back to Shengshou. I'm actually not going to use this one, but I'm going to use the gem. Get the gem or the Mr. M if you don't mind clicky magnets. If you want something with a different feeling, with that frosted plastic feeling, something that especially you could use stickers for FMC for. But that's really all I'd recommend it for. Some people do like using it, but I'd really only use it for FMC or just something with a different feel. I'm going to recommend the QiYi over the Ulong. And get this if you don't mind the look of a stickered puzzle, but you want a stickered puzzle look without the issue of them peeling, and you want something that is really great right out of the box and doesn't need really any setup. I would recommend the MGC version 3 if you want something that has adjustable magnets and adjustable elasticity, but at probably one of the cheapest price. This one is around $20, which is cheaper than any of the other puzzles that have these adjustable settings, and it comes in stickered or stickerless. The Volk Elite M, if you have tried the Volk and really liked it but want something that maybe is an upgrade to it, this would be the way to go. It has a lot of options with magnet adjustments, with elasticity adjustments, and it's just a really nice and fast puzzle. Out of the Gann ones, the XS is really nice. I almost feel like I prefer using the X just because of the shinier plastic. I don't like this matte plastic, but it does, as you can see, wear out a little bit. But if you are going to get the XS, this is a good one to get if you want a really light turning puzzle that has all the bells and whistles with adjustable magnets, adjustable elasticity. But I know some people, their hands get really tired after solving a lot of time. So if you want something that's really light, this will actually allow you to solve for a much longer period of time without getting tired. Out of the MoYu ones, the one that I recommend the most would be the GTS 3. The reason is it's very different from the other ones having these ridges. I like the strong magnets, but the light magnet one, a lot of people do want that. And then we have, why is this cap so hard to get off? There we go. And we have the adjustable elasticity. This has a lot of settings. I believe there's 8 different settings for that. So you get a lot of different options with it. And really the one that's super tight is almost too strong for me, and the one that's super loose is almost too loose for me. So you have a really good variety there. And then for DaYan, the one that I'm missing is, oh, I don't even think I said, the one that I'm missing is the Guhong version 3, which is 54mm puzzle. So it'll be the size of the Gann 354. And I've heard great things about it, but being a 54mm puzzle, it probably won't be a main for a lot of people, just people like me who like smaller puzzles or people who want to use it for one-handed. But I'll have a video about that in the future, so make sure to subscribe and like this video. Okay, but the Tangyun is the one to get from DaYan if you want something that's very, very quiet and something that also is a little bit more bubbly and rounded feel. I feel like this reminds me of a GTS 2 a lot, with just the size of it, the flexibility of it. I mean, you can even see the way the center caps are very similar in that right. So it's something similar to a GTS 2, but a very quiet feeling to it, but quite flexible, which is some people love and some people hate. So that is the roundup, the mega comparison of these cubes out right now. I did talk through things quite fast, and this video is still quite long. I think one of the first videos I did end up being like over a half an hour, which, some people might want that, but I don't want to edit that. So yeah, keep an eye out for the other comparisons in the future. I might just do one big one depending on what's out. If there's anything I missed, which I'm sure there is, leave them in the comment section below. If you have your own thoughts on this that are different than mine or the same as mine, leave a comment below as well for that. Do whatever you want. I'm excited to see what 2020 holds. I am finishing up school in May, so I'll have a lot more time to do videos once summer hits. I don't know how much there's going to be in the next, 4 or 5 months, but I'll try to keep things going, especially single reviews when cubes come out. So thank you very much for watching. Hit like, subscribe for more content like this in the future, and as always, stop by speedqview.com for more news and reviews.